What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to point out all the negatives about the ZHIYUN Weebill 2. Now, if this is your first time to the channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you can see more videos like this, and leave a thumbs up for this video if you find it to be very helpful to your gimbal purchasing journey. I've decided to make this con video because obviously gimbals are supposed to be good. What about their bads? The most common reason why people out there wouldn't buy a gimbal is because of the weight capacity. But however, I feel like there's so many details that we should be paying attention to when it comes to, you know, the form factor of the gimbal, the functionality of the gimbal. Does it work for your workflow? So all of that, you know, I feel like it's very important to know these things about a gimbal. So with that being said, that's why I want to highlight the cons of this gimbal. Because I've been such a big fan of the ZHIYUN brand, I feel like they made some changes to this line of gimbal and I don't really like it. And I'm going to explain. So first of all, we're going to talk about the quick release system. Why in the world would you take that away from the gimbal? You know, that's what made the ZHIYUN gimbal line so amazing. The fact that they're able to quick release from a Manfrotto tripod plate to an Arca Swiss, or just being able to pull the camera right off your gimbal and go in handheld and having to throw it back on your gimbal without having to rebalance it. To me, I felt like that's the only edge that ZHIYUN had over the market. When I'm making purchases for a gimbal, or that's a feature that I need to have in my arsenal because I want to be able to like quickly shift from tripod to gimbal to handheld as fast as possible. To fix that problem, I ended up buying a quick release plate from ANDYCINE. When I saw their quick release plate, I thought it was a super dope solution. The simple fact that it has a super tight knob in the back to where it allows you to release the plate. So what I did was I took the camera riser and I put it under the camera, and then now I was able to put it in the slot allotted for the quick release. And it goes right in the grooves properly, and all you do is line it up and tighten it up. Now you have a solution to where you can take your camera off your gimbal and going handheld. To go the extra miles, you could get 2 of those release plates and have one on your gimbal and have the other one on your tripod. Okay, so next on the con list is the handle. It's very high quality, a premium build. However, there's a lot of things about it that I'm not feeling. When I pick up the gimbal, I feel like everything is in my face. And I think the reason being is because they had to make this back panel so bulky so that way the screen could live on top of there. Everyone that ever used a gimbal before knows that you use one hand to hold the gimbal and the second hand to support. The problem with this is, since the handle is so short, it makes it very hard to reach the buttons and also maneuver with the gimbal. The buttons are placed in a weird position, and when you need to reach the modes, you have to reach your finger all the way back here, and it's super uncomfortable to do that. You might as well move your left hand to move the lever. And now the power button. The power button is super flat. For some reason, it makes it super hard to know when you've touched the power button. Feel like it's super easy when you're turning the gimbal on, but if you're turning the gimbal to sleep, you might not know if you've pressed it enough, so you always have to go back and double check to see if you've pressed it. Now, another thing about that button is when the screen is open, it's pretty hard to know if you've reached that button, and it makes it 10 times harder. So that's a pretty bad placement for the button. I think they should have placed it somewhere on the right side or somewhere in the front. And now for the focus wheel. After using the DJI RS2 and RS-C2, I feel like there should never be a focus wheel on the side of the gimbal ever again. For the DJI RS2, focus wheel is in the front. That makes it super easy to focus, especially if you have the gimbal in one hand. So that allows you to like quickly, you know, make changes on the fly. Whereas with the 2-hand, you always have to rely on that side. So if you're not able to use your left hand for some reason, you know, you're kind of like, you know, assed out a bit. So that's the only thing about, you know, the focus wheel. I feel like it's really good. It's a pretty good build, even though it's plastic. It feels really smooth. At the same time, I can never go back to these focus wheels ever again. That's just me personally. And now lastly, about the handle, we have the joystick. I feel like the joystick is perfectly positioned. However, there's one thing they kind of like misjudge or miscalculated about it, is the different size hands. So I have a pretty average common size hand, so it might work for me in certain situations. If I were to hold the gimbal in one hand, a lot of times I have too much give on my thumb I end up being all the way over here with my thumb, where in a normal situation, I would be back here. Because I really need to grip the handle, this kind of like really sinks my hand into the gimbal for me to have to hold it, which gives me that extra give. So, you know, it's not a big deal, but at the same time, it's something that I would rather have it extended a little further so that way I could have some space for my hands. And if you're the type of person with bigger hands, it's not gonna work for you. And also, if you're a left-hander, it's definitely not a go for you. The battery life. The battery life on gimbals are super crucial, especially for me, knowing that I have long shooting days with gimbals. I need battery life that could last all day. With the previous gimbals and also with the previous Weebil, I had up to like 16 hours of shoot time with it. And you know, there was times where I rarely even made a dent in the battery after shooting for like 8 to 10 hours straight. And also I had the option to buy, you know, extra batteries. So that way, even if I, you know, have a long day to where I didn't have a chance to like charge the battery and to get ready for the next long day, I would have extra batteries on the go. Now, however, with the handle, the battery is built in. You know, I'm okay with that. I don't have no problem with that because I use the Ronin and the battery is built in within the Ronin, and that's fine. However, the battery life sucks on this model. You know, 9 hours is not enough. 9 hours is what's on paper, where in reality, in a real shoot, it probably would be 7 to 8 hours because, you know, sometimes you're shooting differently, you have different payloads on the camera. Even though they give you the option to charge the battery on the go, you would need some type of V-mount battery in your pocket that is big enough to juice the gimbal on the go. And now, the part that we've all been waiting for is the screen. When I saw the screen on a gimbal, for the first time, I was like, holy crap, ZHIYUN is always pushing the envelope and changing the game. You know, it looks super cool on paper. Once I started to play with it and once I started to deal with the screen, you know, like I felt like this is going to give me a lot more troubles than I expected. Yes, it's useful in a way where you could view your footage from it. Now, the problem with this is, let's just say you're in a crowded area, you're in a space, and you know, sometimes you have to squeeze your gimbal through wild places. And let's just say you decide to back it out a little bit. Now the screen goes crack. You know, because it only allows you to articulate only but so far. Once the screen goes cracked, now you don't have the options to your menu and to change your setting. I felt like the screen is innovative, but in many ways, it's a hindrance. One, to the battery life because it has to be bright so there's no like dim settings on there. When you're shooting, you want to put it on sleep mode, you hit the power button once, but the thing is, it's blocking the power button now. So you always have to like readjust and tap it, and then that way it goes to sleep. The gimbal will still stay on, you know, that's how you can save your battery. Do I want to worry about all of that if I'm in a fast-paced moving shoot? No, I don't want to have to worry about that for my gimbal. The way the Ronin has their screen in the back of their handle, that's probably the furthest I would go to like a screen on the gimbal. And even at that, I have some troubles with it because, you know, you always have to lock that screen on the RS2. So that way you don't change your setting by mistake, which happens all the time to me. So like every time I change my mode, I have to lock the gimbal or else my settings or my mode is going to be changed while I'm on the move. Another con about the screen is that all your modes are in the screen. If you're moving fast and you only have one hand, you also need that left hand to change your mode on the lever part. All in all, my final thoughts for the ZHIYUN Weebill 2 is that I feel like ZHIYUN took 3 steps back with this product. They were innovative like they always were, especially by coming out with the screen. But I feel like they were a little bit too ahead, a little bit too advanced. I feel like they didn't put as much thought into the product as they should have and just released it. If you are planning to purchase the Weebill 2, the link is down below in the descriptions. If you do decide to purchase the ANDYCINE, you could use it for the gimbal, you could use it for the tripod, and you could also use it on other gimbals such as the Ronin RS-C2 or the Ronin RS2. Thank you for watching this video and I hope it helped you a lot. If you found a lot of value from it, hit that thumbs up. And also if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, this is the perfect time to do so. And until next time, I'll see you on my next one. Deuces.